Hello, everyone. I am Claudio Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspired podcast, and my guest today is Gabriela Casineanu. Gabriela has a broad experience and knowledge in coaching, learning and development, program coordination, workshop design and facilitation, marketing and communications, including social media, engineering, business quality assurance, IT programming, writing, and self-publishing. She's fluent in 3 languages and authored 10 books, some of which were translated in both French and Romanian languages and won international awards. She's also the founder and past president of the Immigrant Writers Association, a federally incorporated Canadian nonprofit association. Gabriela, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation, Claudio.
As I mentioned in the introduction, you promote yourself mainly as a coach, facilitator. You wrote books about being an introvert. But behind all these personal developments, there is a substrate of build-up spirituality. When did you make a conscious decision that the intangible has to be part of your life?
I think the decision found me. In 2007, I was just starting my coaching business, and I was starting to get clients. And I had a friend who invited me to a workshop done by someone in States. She's like, let's go to Chicago together. You come for free because I pay for the ticket. You like what you see there. I'm like, it's too far. I'm in Toronto, Canada. So 2 weeks after, she asked again. I'm like, it might be a sign from the universe. Let me go. So it was a 2-day workshop. The first half day, I'm like, I know this, I know that. After that, it started being more intensive with experiential exercises, with a lot of interesting knowledge. And the guy was taking a concept, and he was presenting it from a spiritual perspective, from different religions, from science, kind of backing up with science. And it was very interesting, and kind of opened up the door. And I continued to go to workshops that he organized between 2007 and 2009. And a lot of them gave me spiritual experiences. So I realized that there is something beyond what people call material or real world. And I started going deep into that. I started meditation practice, daily meditation practices. And a lot of things came out of just untangible world, how you call it. I don't talk much about it because I think that we can incorporate the spiritual part in whatever we're doing. And I don't want to scare other clients who are not into this. I'm kind of a bridge builder between the two worlds. That's how I consider myself.
Interesting. And we are both born in Christian Orthodox religion. So we'll talk later about your spiritual experiences. But at this point, do you feel that the steps you took on the spiritual path and the experiences you had come in contradiction with your religious upbringing in any way?
That's a very good question. Actually, even before coming to Canada, as a child, as a teenage, I have a feeling all the time that it might be a big truth, and the religions are kind of getting something out of the truth, like a big truth that spread out in small parts, and each religion got a part. So that was my feeling about religion in general. It's not that it comes in contradiction if you take just Christian Orthodoxy. It's something beyond, kind of a higher level. And any religion, including Christian Orthodox, it's kind of part of spirituality. What I don't like, for example, people promote each religion like my religion is the best one, yours is the bad one. And if you think about all of them, none is good because you're talking just about others not good and they're talking about yours. But when you look at the bigger picture, that bigger truth, actually there is this spirituality, how I call it, or big truth that kind of encompasses all of them. If you look, we are in Canada, there are so many religions here we get in touch with. There are so many common elements. But many people are talking about what's different in my religion from yours. How many talk about what we have in common? And that's what I found about my upbringing and the spirituality. They have a lot in common.
Indeed, and when someone starts talking about or making comparison between these religions, as you mentioned, we get into dogma, and that's not good for personal growth, in my opinion, at least. So that's why I asked this question, because I live the same conundrum. I had some experiences which somehow come in contradiction with what the Christian Orthodox religion is telling us when we grow up. So I wanted to find out your perspective on that. And while I was doing some research on you and reading more about your experiences on your website, I found something very interesting which I've never encountered before, to be honest. You talk about bending an 1.6-meter rebar by the power of love. So can you please offer us the short version of the story?
Yeah, it was one of those workshops I was talking about, and the exercise was two people had a rebar, that kind of bar that it's used in construction, and you have to put it here at this point in your neck, and the other person the same, and you have to look at the other person like you're loving that person, and you have to come closer, and when you come closer, the bar it's bending. But in my case, it took me several tries to get there. And I was in a big group, 400-500 people, I guess, and we were splitting in these two pairs. And I tried with one person and she gave up. I'm like, what's going on here? Another one came, let me do the exercise with you. It didn't work with that one either. The third one, a big guy, very tall comparing to me, came, and the first time we tried didn't work, the second time it worked. And I was kind of puzzled. So the next day when we were again in the big room, I raised my hand. I'm like, what's going on here? The other could do the exercise very easily, and I couldn't. Why it took me 10 times or more? I didn't even count them, but it was a lot of tries. And he's like, maybe you had big intentions, because you need to set up an intention before you go to the exercise. Maybe the intention was too big. Maybe you have another limiting belief that you have to go through. And like, that might make sense because I had a big intention for that exercise. But coming back after the discussion, talking to those people who did the exercise with me, the first one was, I couldn't do it. You were too strong. You were pushing too strong, so I couldn't handle it. The second one was, I was looking into your eyes when you did the exercise and I got scared. I don't know if she got scared about what I was projected or what resonated with her in that exercise. And the guy, the first time he said, you pushed so hard that I have to back off. And then the second time I was able to withhold. So that made me realize the power that we have within. It's not about how big you are, how strong you are. It's more about the intentions that you have. It's more about how you go through that exercise, how much you put yourself into it. So there are so many elements to what we see, kind of facts related to a certain situation or exercise.
I mean, what amazes me is that you take this bending of the rebar for granted now. I mean, you went through that experience, and if you tell anyone on the street about this potential power they have, they will disregard it completely and they will think that you are nuts. And this is an exercise which I might want to do with a family member or someone else, and see if we can reach that level of love and soften the rebar. But this is quite incredible. And again, I repeat myself, I've never heard of this exercise before, and it's quite powerful.
Yeah, two things to say about it. One is it is very powerful. It really helped me I gain a lot of self-confidence after that exercise. And the second one is, don't try it at home. Don't try it by yourself. Because we did it in an environment, we were prepared for that exercise. We were taught how to do it, what could go wrong, what you need to do. It's a lot related to limiting beliefs. So you need to know how to go around them, because at one point when it didn't work, the workshop leader came to me. I'm like, he's like, you should put away any limiting beliefs. I'm like, I'm not waking up. It's don't sustain the effort. So there are a lot of things going on, and if you're doing at home, and one thing I don't know if I put it in my article, you don't put just the rebar on your neck. You put it on a coin first.
Mm-hmm.
So the coin stay here. But it's true, when you just push it without that kind of feeling of unconditional love, it's really pushing harder. So you feel the pressure a lot. So I have to stop at one point, and I continue after, because I need to kind of come back from
Yes.
that.
So if unconditional love can bend rebars like strong matter, imagine what it can do to other softer parts of the universe, of the fabric around our reality. That's unbelievable.
Everything is energy.
Yeah.
And the unconditional love is how we manifest energy. So what you put out there, you get back.
Exactly.
So you can bend. You heard about those people who can bend the tablespoons. Same idea.
So that's for you right now. It's a walk in the park.
I wouldn't say it's walking apart, but it's a very good exercise.
Exactly. Going into the next phase of, or the next experience, you also mentioned that when you visited Egypt and Machu Picchu, these were both transformational spiritual experiences for you. Would you be able to share some of those with us, please?
Sure. I went with a group of 40 people, I guess, 40 or 45 people in Egypt. And we had two guides. One was the same person who was doing those workshops, who knew a lot about spiritual. He knew a lot about Egypt, ancient Egypt. So he was really interested in these topics. But also he hired a guide who is an archaeologist. He's from Egypt, an archaeologist, and he was an expert in Egyptian mythology. So we had two kind of guides in that trip. It was an amazing trip. If you think of the Nile and the temples in Egypt, we started with the first one. He chose to help us open the first chakra, the root chakra. The second one to help open the second chakra, the third. So by the time we got to the pyramids, our chakras were only opened, and the pyramid. On the plateau, we had a very interesting experience. The first one was we get the permission. It's not usually to get the permission to stay between the poles of the swings. So at 5 a.m., we went all the group there, and we did a powerful meditation between the poles. And the energy of the place, when you, after you clear your body of all those negative energies and emotions through that journey, going from one temple to another, you really feel the energy of that place. So while I was sitting there, my body was shaking. During the meditation, he was guiding our meditation, and my body was shaking all the time. And then we got into the pyramid, and the same, he obtained the agreement from the authorities to go into all three chambers. The lower chamber, the middle chamber, and the king chamber. The lower chamber is associated with the unconscious mind. The middle chamber, it's the queen chamber, associated with the conscious mind. And the higher chamber, it's a king chamber, associated with high consciousness. So in the subconscious chamber, it's pretty dark. There are no light there. So you're left there to do whatever comes up. And what came up for me was, I felt like it was someone driving on a horse without a head coming toward me. And it really came out of my stomach and up, and I had to shut out. I guess I scared the others, but it happened to me several times. So I was still releasing with each of these shoutings. Then we went into the second chamber. We didn't have time to stage. We just went around it in the queen chamber. But the most interesting part was, it was a queen. The interesting part was going from queen chamber to king chamber. there is a passage, if you look on the internet on the Great Pyramid, you'll see this passage. It has kind of a middle pass and the side pass. And if you compare to the spiritual path, it's not that you have to be on one side or on the other. The middle path is the most important. So that's the significance of that, the passage from the conscious chamber to the higher chamber, the king chamber. And in the king chamber, there is just a sarcophagus there. And we are all around the room and we start chanting Om, 60 people, because there were a few others who joined. And the energy was so intense there. And the person who organized the whole trip, he went to Egypt before. He sit in the sarcophagus for longer than he allowed us to stay. He just gave us 30 seconds to each of us. And he said that in those 30 seconds, you need to lay down, put your hands, like you see in those pharaoh images of when they are in the sarcophagus, and clear your mind and be open to whatever comes up. And what I found very interesting, what came up to me was very different what came up with others when I started talking to them after. For me, for example, I went there, I cleared my mind, and the only thought that came was, you're beautiful. I'm like, what? I never thought about myself being beautiful. No one told me that. And it was really strange in that context to hear that voice in my head. So I was okay. I went out and each of us took turns and continued to do the Om until everyone finished. The guy told us then why we were doing this. He had an out-of-body experience. He was there looking at his body while he was chanting with all of us. It's very interesting. So when we talked to the evening during the dinner, another one said, I was afraid of death. So I went there and I lay down and I quieted my mind. And I heard a voice saying, this is how it is. So quiet, so calm. And she was really, I get goosebumps. She was really surprised because she was afraid. She was afraid of that. She didn't know what to expect. She's like, if this is death, I don't have to be afraid of it. Yes. And the third one I talked to, she was ready to retire. She was a real estate agent. She was a very successful one. She was ready to retire, to go into Hawaii, buy a house there and have a nice rest of the life. And what she heard, that it's not time for retirement for you. She was so pissed off. But I give these examples that what you get from each experience is related to who you are and what level on your spiritual journey you are.
Yes, and because you mentioned about fear of death, we usually hear about ego, and we are ego-driven in our regular day-to-day life. So have you thought at the ego death, and what will that mean to you?
I didn't put it in this way, but I think when you start having these spiritual experiences, you realize that there is something beyond you. So you're not attached to the material world so much anymore. If something happens, you know that it's just a situation. There is more than that. If you are in a difficult situation, you know that you can get help from the universe, from universal consciousness, God, whatever you call it. So I don't think of ego anymore. I'm much more comfortable. I'm much more at ease with any situation. So I think it's what you call the ego death, because otherwise you might go into fights and you want to argue with anyone who doesn't agree with you. You really change when you go through these kind of experiences.
Yes, and if you have the chance, let's say, to transition in peace or through a different state of consciousness, then only those left behind will be upset with you because they have to deal with, all the loose ends, and they have to take care of everything. But you will be peaceful, transitioned, and you won't care about anything else at that point. But this is something, everyone has to understand and, in fact, rejoice in the fact that someone transitioned and be happy for that person. I know there is a lot of pain because of certain circumstances, the age of the person who will transition. But in the end, we also have to celebrate the life of that individual, again, in my opinion.
Yeah, and on top of that, I will say that what you're missing, actually, you're missing how you feel in the present of that person. So when that present is no longer there, you're missing that feeling. So you have to look into what that feeling means, how I can get that feeling back, even if that person is not present with me. Sometimes it might be about self-love. Sometimes it might be about something else. But if you look into this kind of personal development, it tells something about you. Besides the fact that you need to acknowledge that that person shifted in a different state. Some people say they can even connect or get signs from those people. So it's just a different level of energy. That's how I consider it. It's out of this kind of real world, but it still exists because energy cannot be created or just transformed. So if you're looking from this perspective, you didn't lose anything.
Exactly. Yes. And as I am preparing for hopefully a trip to Sedona next month, if the universe will help me do that, I would like to know if you have any nudges of wisdom, because you also have an experience in Sedona as well.
Oh, I have several experiences because the last workshop I attended in those cities was called Spiritual Warrior, and it was in Sedona. It was a week-long workshop and with a lot of exercises and teaching and experiences like holotropic breath work and vision quest and a lot of writing and healing and meditation, because usually we don't take the time to go through those things to kind of help ourselves. So one that was kind of standing out for me was holotropic breath work. Did you do it?
No, I haven't tried.
I did it twice, once there and the second time in another workshop. And the first one was really important to me. The second one, I guess I didn't have too much to heal anymore because it wasn't so powerful like the same one. So for those who don't know what holotropic breath work is, this is a method that was developed by a doctor, a psychologist, who right after graduation, he started looking into those mushrooms and other substances and how they influence the mental health. So he came up, and at one point he got married, and his wife, during the birth, she had what he calls now a spiritual emergency. Spiritual emergency, because there is spiritual emergence and spiritual emergency. So spiritual emergency is when you go into a spiritual experience suddenly and the whole body is kind of turned upside down and you don't know what to do with it. And most of the doctors and psychologists don't know because they are not too much interested in the spiritual side. So
and sorry, and that could be a chakra awakening or a Kundalini awakening. And
yes.
most of or some of the people I listen to, they also mentioned that.
Yeah, exactly. So what he did, he developed this method, the holotropic breath work, and he created as a method that it's kind of trending right now into the world. What you do, you go into a room, there is someone who will facilitate the whole process. It's explaining you what you need to do, because you need to to do some breathing in a certain way. You lay down on a mat, yoga mat. You need to start breathing the way they teach you, and they put certain music to get in a kind of trance, semi-conscious state. And what's happening there depends on where you are on your spiritual journey, on your evolution, because some people hang on a lot of limiting beliefs or emotions or a lot of things. So their body is very stiff. So they might feel a lot of pain when they go through the exercise. In my case, it was very different because I was doing this, and from someone who comes from engineering and quality assurance, all the tech stuff. I was very anchored in the reality when I did the exercise, but I was very open to see what's happening. And I'm like, I'm open, what's happening here? And I was so open during the exercise that at one point in that breathing and listening to the music, in that semi-conscious state, I noticed like someone from an African tribe, kind of an old man from an African tribe came to me dressed like they dress for dances, and he started dancing and showing me the moves. So my body started moving in the same way without me directing the body to move. And I was kind of a little bit scared about that. And the rest of the session, I just noticed my body moving in the different, but in sync with the music. And towards the end of that exercise, before the music stopped, it was like I was getting out of a dark tunnel, and I saw the light and some faces there. And I connected with what the workshop leader said before we started the exercise. He told us that some of us will experience, because this exercise could have an effect on what you experience in this life, what you experience with the birth, or what it was before. So for me, it was the birth, getting out of the womb. And after the exercise, while we were doing the exercise, I put at the end of the yoga mat a piece of paper and pens, colored pens. And they said, when you finish the exercise, when you stop the music, turn around and draw whatever comes up. And for me, I felt I need to draw with both hands. And I didn't draw something recognizable, just circles. And my hands were going like this all the time until I fill out the paper and the paper roll out. So I had to stop. And I went back in the room and I couldn't stop. My body was still shaking. And I started, for 2-3 hours, I was just continuing to draw with both hands. I never was able to draw exactly with left and right hand. And I started writing. And it was kind of pouring, the words were pouring through my head. And after that, I started writing some articles, and kind of a door was open for me. And I feel that exercise, breathwork exercise, helped me to open up and release a lot of things that I don't even know I have. And that kind of helped me with the rest of my journey, because I became more creative, and that influenced my coaching and whatever I do. I use these kind of exercises and concepts that I learn along the way in everything I do.
Thank you for sharing. And if we have to look not only in ancient history, but in recent history, a lot of gurus and enlightened people talk about breath work. You have Yogananda, you have Will Hof, which will stay at minus 30 degrees based on his own breath rhythm. And he teaches other people to do the same. Is the like Stanislav Grof is the scientist you talk about, who developed this method. So everything comes to energy and breath in the end. There are these the common denominators on let's say our spiritual path, if you want to say that. And we have to focus on these two elements because they are the most important on breaking down the dams of all the stuck energy we have in our body. And in your case, as you mentioned, you became more creative, writing started to flow through. And I can tell you that maybe I had the same moment, which could have been an unconscious moment in, let's say, 2017, when I kind of closed a circle in my life, in my life, and I was able to start being creative again. So I recognize what you are saying in my own life pattern, but again, I'm not there. I work on myself every single day, and I yearn for more to go and learn more and have these experiences as much as possible.
Talking about you kind of close a circle. After I start writing, I remember that in my childhood, the only 2 times when I got the biggest mark Romanian, like English in school, was when I did what now I know we call a stream of conscience, right? Consciousness writing. So at that point, I didn't know. I was so scared of writing that I was giving myself 4 hours to write a 1 page because I didn't like to write. But I had 2 times when I just sit down and write everything from A to Z, and I didn't have to correct anything. Usually I was going through it several times. So going through this exercise and looking back, I was like, maybe that was on my past, but because at a younger age, the school and the environment teach me how to be more logical. The rest of my life until that point was more toward the logical side of thinking. So that experience helped me kind of declutter the other parts, and it kind of came back in force. That's how I see it. It was there, but I didn't know. I was not aware of it.
Yes. And if you can share with us, how do you usually incorporate this spiritual aspect of your life into your coaching and sessions with your clients? What is the approach?
It really depends on the topic, on the person, on what they want. So it's totally different. If there is a one-on-one session, for example, I don't look just at the words of the people. I look at the energetic level, what's going on there, because I have a sense of reading the energetic field. And if they say something and I feel something else, I let them know. So based on that differences, they become aware of some things that might not be aware before. I ask a lot of questions. I'm very curious, and the questions come from not only from a coaching perspective, but also come from the spiritual side, even if I don't mention it. For example, I was coaching someone, he was ready to go for an interview, but he was scared of that job interview. And I tried different things with him and nothing worked. And at one point I said, do you believe there is something, a power or that is beyond us? He's like, yes, I believe. I'm like, what do you need to believe that whatever it is will help you during the interview? He's like, never thought of that. So that's a spiritual approach. It's not a career coaching or employment approach. Other times when I get people talking about something, I get them into the body because I'm also trained in body and mind coaching. So instead of focusing on the words, on talking about the situation itself, we talk about what they notice in the body when they talk about this. And with that noticing, new things come out from the body. So you can notice there's a tension here, that it's some kind of energy stuck there or an emotion stuck there. So we get the person through that, and they get through the other side, and they realize what they can do about the situations they started with. So there are so many ways, and this body-centered coaching also go hand in hand with the meditation practice that I did since 2007, because what I did in my meditation practice, I focus on my inner world, on how the energy flows in the body. So I became so aware of what's going on in our body and how to work with the body and the energy and the emotions, that I'm using this in whatever I do with individual clients. And if when I'm working with an organization, it's the same. An organization is a relationship system. And that system it's a separate entity. It has an energy of its own. It has a vision of its own. So I help the group, the team, the organization tap into that energy to find their answer, to find solutions to whatever problems they deal with, to find wherever they want to go, because some of them, they know the vision or how to download the vision into a strategic plan. So I combine those logical and call it spiritual, call it creative side in everything that I'm doing. Even in my books, even if they are non-fiction books, they still have a spiritual part.
And when you go to into a corporation to help them, do you find that people open up, or they are still stiff in their mentality and they hold back certain perspectives and ideas? How do you handle if, let's say, the energy is not up to par?
There are exercises to work with this, because the exercises that I'm doing, they come from organizational relationship systems coaching, which is the specialized type of coaching that is based on Tao, based on system theory, based on chaos theory. So all these have this kind of energetic spiritual component to it. But the exercises are designed in a way to help people who are very realistic to open up. Because when you are in a group, you feel the tension. Just noticing the tension and pointing it out, people will notice it, even if they didn't notice before. When you ask question what we can do about it, people will open up, come up with ideas. Even if you don't tell them, we need to fix this. We cannot continue if everyone is so stubborn in their ideas. So there are exercises, techniques that we learn that I use to help them open up. And from that, because that's what coaching is actually, it helps people open up so they come up with their own ideas based on the situation and what they want to do.
So we have to learn to ask questions and how to ask questions. In fact, for this flow of energy and information to come through.
And also you have to pay attention to the energy in the room.
Yes.
You can ask questions, but if you don't pay attention what's going on in the room, there is a disconnect there. And you're the most important person to do that because they are not aware of these kind of things. They are not aware that they are a team, which is an entity. Most of the time when I introduce the team as a system, it's a separate entity. It's not just you, the members. It's kind of, imagine an orchestra. An orchestra is more than just the individual musicians. What comes out of it, it's totally different. If you take one musician out and you put another one, it's a different entity. It has a different behavior. In time, the system changes, evolves, because they get along better, maybe. So if you look at a team or an orchestra as a system, you need to know how to work with a system. So it's a bit more complex than just asking questions. That's what I want to say.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
Also, these experiences unlock a different type of creativity in your case, and you mentioned that offline painting. How is that going for you?
I guess life will hit me soon because I stopped painting at one point. I was starting to go through a burnout, and even the burnout signs start showing up. I wanted to start painting from a long time, but I didn't do two courses. But I wanted to paint, so I just I bought some paint and brushes and start painting, but it didn't work for me because after that holotropic breathwork experience, I want to move freely. My hands want to move. So what I did with painting, actually, I thought I want to know what's the image, what a kind of a visual image of spirituality, for example. So I put that word in my mind. And I choose intuitively the colors of the paints. And I dip my fingers in the paints, and that's how I'm painting. It's intuitive painting. I put myself in a semi-conscious state, kind of semi-meditation. And I paint whatever the hands want to do, and they tell me when to stop. And after that, I step back and I look, and I meditate on that painting. And that's how new information comes out. So I put this in that book that I have. It's called Spiritual Concepts, a Visual Representation. That's what I do with painting. Call it painting, call it curiosity to see kind of a visual aspect about intangible concepts. That's what I do. I try to realize, for example, masculine and feminine energy. I have a painting, a triptych with this. What's the image? What's the visual of that? So I came up with the visuals through painting. It's this kind of things I'm doing with painting.
And are you planning to have any exhibition, or is just for your own way of expressing yourself?
I have an exhibition at one point. In 2015, I had an exhibition with all those paintings that are in the book that are from that exhibition. Then in 2016, I was telling you that I was kind of getting into it. In 2016, I got into a burnout. I couldn't talk for 4 months. I couldn't walk. I got dizziness, panic attacks, and anxiety, all that stuff. And actually, the spiritual component helped me get out of that. But back to the painting, I stopped painting because I couldn't do anymore. And I didn't get back to it. So that's why I was talking. If it is for me, life will give me a sign sooner or later. So I have to pay attention to that.
Thank you. In the introduction, I mentioned that you are an introvert and you wrote an award-winning book on the subject. If there are introverts listening to us, and for sure there are introverts listening to us, what would you recommend them to do from a spiritual perspective in order to ease their anxiety or ease their way into day-to-day life?
The first thing I will say is learn more about what introversion is, about the introvert strengths, about the introvert innate characteristics. That's how they call them. I call them strengths because when you shift them from characteristic to strengths, and when you start using them, you notice that they give you a lot of benefits. So when you start getting curious about how I can use this, you're not anymore into anxiety, reacting to the outside world, you're more proactive. At one point, I was doing a presentation about my book at a library. And at the end, I had a student, a very introverted student, come to me. She asked, what can I do if I want to talk to people, but I get a lot of anxiety? And I was feeling her while she was talking. I'm like, you just need to do what you did right now. Find something you're interested in and go get the answer for that. She was interested to get an answer to her question. I said, you went through that anxiety, through that fear, whatever it was, stand up and came to talk to me, to a stranger, and ask the question. That's what you need to do as an introvert. Start with something that's meaningful to you, that you're interested in, a cause that you care about, and go in that direction. And the anxiety, you might not drop it right away, but it will be less and less and less because your comfort zone will increase. And you won't even notice that because you're going towards something you're really interested in. That's how I got into public speaking, not because I wanted to be in to the workshops and teaching. It's because I had something I knew people can benefit from it. And I went to an organization. I'm like, would you like to have a workshop? I didn't do any workshop before, but I wanted to do a workshop. And what I did in that workshop, I went there. One of the characteristics of introverts, they don't like to be the boss and kind of be bossy with others, to direct them. So I wanted to do that workshop because I had a lot of exercises I want to take them through to learn more about themselves. So what I did, I sit them in a circle in the room, and I was part of the circle. So I felt that we are collaborating. I was guiding them. I was part of the group. So that's how I put myself at ease. Instead of thinking I'm the leader here, I have to tell them what to do. I'm here, you're here. No, we are on the same page. I'm just guiding your experience, and I'm opening up the discussion. So it went very well, and I gained more confidence, and I went to the next and the next. So it became easier in time.
So in other words, and I might be wrong, so please correct me, being an introvert is a feeling, something innate in us we are born with, and through practice and maybe meditation and spiritual workshops, we can diminish that feeling and feel more integrated into the day-to-day life.
I wouldn't say that you're wrong, because I don't like to say that. I will give you the perspective because I'm also certified in MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. It's a test that kind of helps people, and it's used. 70% of the companies and a lot of organizations are using it to figure out who are introverts and extroverts. And there are books and scientific studies about that say we are born not with a feeling. Our brain is wired differently. The pathways in the brain are different for introverts and extroverts. For extroverts, the distance between stimuli and reaction is very short. For introverts, between the stimuli, it has to go the information to the long-term memory, through processing the information, trying to figure out how to formulate the answer. So the outcome is longer. So there's nothing wrong with one or the other. It's just we function differently. And that brings different characteristics. For example, introverts are strategic thinkers. They can go very deep in a topic if they're interested in. So there are many good characteristics for introverts. And actually, when I looked in parallel extroverts and introverts, we have complementary traits, innate traits. You don't need just one. It's like yin and yang. You just don't need yin or just yang. You need
Yes.
both of them. And that little dot in yin and yang, it's each of us, we have a potential to behave in the other way, and we learn. What you say, you can put aside that feeling. It's not that you're putting it aside, because you're still I'm still an introvert even when I'm talking. But what I do, I developed in time. You develop skills that for an outsider look like extroversion. When I do a workshop, and I'm so excited about the things that I'm talking about, because I do workshops only on topics I'm interested in, the people don't know, think that I'm an extrovert. I'm very open, and you see, I'm moving and smiling. But put me to do another workshop on a topic I'm not interested in, I will be totally different. I won't even do it, to be honest. So it's a difference between how you perceive someone and how the person is. Okay. So in time, we learn more about how to function in the world. There might be moments when it's okay to open up and talk to people. And for extroverts as well. You heard about that 10-day meditation retreat when they don't need to talk. I talked with someone who is an extrovert. He's like, someone told me to go through that retreat. He's like, no, I won't. He finally went there, and it changed his life. So extroverts need to learn a little bit more of this kind of reflection, self-reflection, introspection. Introverts need to learn the other side as well. And that's how you become a whole person.
Yes.
Actually, you build new skills to help you function better in the world, but they help you as well.
Thank you, Gabriela.
Because we don't live in a vacuum.
Exactly. Because we talk about sacred sites. What else, what other sacred sites are on your bucket list, maybe for this year or next?
I was looking, when I was preparing for Egypt, I was looking at the Mother Earth's chakras. It has chakras, these kind of well-known spiritual places like Egypt, Pyramid Plateau, Machu Picchu. These are chakras of the Mother Earth. And there are some more important, some less important. For example, in Ontario, I looked, and they are situated on those
ley lines.
Yes. I looked if there is something like this in Ontario, close to where I live, and I found petroglyphs. The petroglyphs near Peterborough, they have petroglyphs, kind of drawings in stones, carved in stones, 5,000 years old, and it's still now a sacred place. These are places that you want to visit. So you don't have to go too far if you don't have the money or don't want to. For me, I have this feeling that I want to go to Mount Shasta?
Shasta, yeah.
Shasta in California. It's one of those big
energetic points. Yes. Yeah.
So there are several of them. Ideally, I want to go to all of them, but we'll see where it goes.
And if you go there, just go up north to Washington State, to Mount Rainier. It's also a very interesting energetic spot. I know from friends who live in that area. And every time they go there, they have amazing experiences. So, yeah. Do you work with crystals, or do you have any preferred crystal?
Crystal? No, I'm not too much. I didn't, because you need to learn about them, what crystal is for what, how to use it. I'm kind of drawn toward them, but I don't learn about which is what, when to use it, why I need to use it, and all the stuff. I'm someone who goes a lot by intuition, and it's that channel that connects me with the intuition kind of decluttered a lot through all these spiritual journeys that I've been through. So if I'm drawn to something based on my intuition, I just go to. I don't need to spend time to figure out more, because I'm trusting my intuition.
Nice. Do you have any other plans for this year, like writing plans or anything else which will your clients will benefit from?
I have too many plans. That's the problem with a creative introvert. I have so many plans that I need to figure out which one to do first and second and third. So every day I'm waking up, I'm like, based on my life purpose, what do I need to do today? Because if I start looking at all this project, I want to write this book and that book and do this project and the other one, and I can get overwhelmed. But if I take it step by step every day, write down whatever I need to work on today and prioritize and go step by step, somehow they emerge toward the life purpose, why I was meant to be on this earth. So that's how I look at it.
And that's a good, very good advice. So if some of my viewers want to get in touch with you and get your help, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
You can reach me via my website, my name, gabrielacasineanu.com, or introvertsacademy.org.
Gabriela, we're
social media.
Oh, yes, of course. That's always there. We're approaching the end of the interview. Any final thoughts?
I really encourage people to explore the spiritual side if they still afraid of it, because at one point I got a glimpse of it, but I was afraid of it. But approach it with some caution, because you can become addicted, you can withdraw from the world, and while you're still alive in this world, you still have a role in this world. So that's why I consider myself a bridge between the worlds, because I was very much into kind of the real materialistic world. Then I went into the spiritual path and dig a lot in the direction. And I realized that I cannot continue my life if I'm just going that way. So I start embracing both. So I want to share this with people who are maybe already started or deeper in the spiritual path, because might be this tendency to go deeper and deeper. There is so much to learn. More you dig, more you want to learn and experience and evolve. But there are other things that might need our attention, and life tells us. That's why I consider the burnout that I went through in 2016. It was a heads-up call for me. It was a blessing in disguise, because it kind of pushed me to shift direction. I was doing workshops, daily workshops. I was helping people. I was liking what I was doing, but I was not in the right environment and was not the right way to help people for me. And it pushed me into starting to write, where I can help more people without losing so much energy while doing it. So life knows what is our path. We just need to pay attention to those signals that we get from it.
Yes. Look for trust your intuition. Be in this world, but not of this world, something like that. And be present, but at the same time, have your connection with the divine, with the God of your understanding. And things will pan out positively in your favor, for sure. Gabriela, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Last word, we are spiritual being having a
physical experience, yes.
So if you're just going towards spiritual, you don't experience the physical part. So when you're out of it, you feel like you're missing something. You're missing the playground where you could test and learn and grow. So you need to embrace both.
Yes. Once again, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, like it, visit my website. And until next time, love and gratitude.